Before baby Jesus is born, there's another baby that needs to be born.
Yes, John.
Well, are we going to name him John?
We are.
Let's get into it. Okay, this is the lectionary text, narrative lectionary for Sunday, December 24th, which is not Christmas Eve. It's the fourth Sunday of Advent.
It's the fourth Sunday of Advent. That's true. Advent 1 in the morning, Christmas Eve at night. Okay, you got me. That's kind of a trick.
It was. But well, I'm curious, though, before we get into this text, which is from Luke chapter 1. It's great. It's a little long, but it's also great. What would you say? Is there a distinction between the fourth Sunday of Advent and Christmas Eve? This is a rare moment when the two coincide on the same day. Typically, that doesn't happen. But what is the difference between Advent 4 and Christmas Eve?
Well, I mean, if we don't talk about Advent 4, then we don't get to talk about love.
Okay, that's kind of an important
That's
thing.
important. I mean, we're certainly going to talk about love on Christmas Eve because I think one of our colleagues said, what is Christmas if not the birth of love? So there's a tie, but there's also a separation. You know, we need to close out this Advent season of waiting and expectation.
Yeah. You gotta do your fourth lap here, people.
Got to do the fourth lap.
Yeah. So at Christmas Eve will be in the evening, 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Riverside. Join us in the nave or online. But in the morning, 11 a.m., we'll be having Advent 4, the fourth Advent candle. And this is the narrative lectionary text, Luke chapter 1, which is the story of Zechariah, who's a priest. And he's in the temple doing his priest stuff. And he has a whole moment with Gabriel. And Gabriel's like, you're going to have a baby. And Zechariah's like, but I'm really old. And Gabriel's like, who are you, Abraham? We've had this conversation before. And then they're like, it's going to happen, don't worry. And they get pregnant.
They do.
And they have a baby.
They do.
And they say, what should we name the baby? And that's where we get John.
That's where we get John. But the part that you skipped is because Zechariah doubted, he doesn't get to talk for the whole pregnancy.
Mute button.
Yeah.
So he is a silent husband for 9 months. That's kind of a whole thing we miss in this story.
I think that's kind of sweet, maybe. Maybe.
Just quietly giving back rubs and foot rubs.
There you go. Works for me.
Until the moment the baby's born and everyone's saying, what's his name going to be? Like, I've got to name him Zechariah. You always name the kid after the dad, right?
But Zechariah learned his lesson. He's like, and I think he writes it on paper, right? So. That his name is John. And to your point, no one in your family's been named John. You don't know a John. There's no John. He's like, his name is John, right? So his name is John. And maybe that's when he's able to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because now he got it. The angel was not playing.
Yeah. So where are you taking this? We can dive into some of the interesting details of this text in a minute, but like you got a sermon coming on Sunday. What's that all coming together for you?
Yes. Well, this is our fourth round where we're talking and thinking about our overarching theme for the year, which is true religion. So the theme is love. And there is an artist, Molly Music, who sings this song called Heavy Love. It's unchanging, heavy love, it ain't changing, heavy love. There's something about the love in this story, what Zechariah is willing to put up with, how he and his wife Elizabeth have waited all of these decades for a child, and it's in the end of their life that it comes. That says something, I think, that's really profound about love. He's willing to be silenced. They've been willing to wait. They haven't given up on each other. And in a way, I think, have not given up on God, despite Zechariah's doubting the angel. And that says something to me about what Molly Music says in this piece, is that this love is heavy. It can't be shaken. It can't be moved. It's a heavy love. It hangs in. It sticks with this husband and wife, but also them with God. And I think there's something about the people's relationship with God, our relationship with God, that invites us to this sort of heavy love, where we maybe don't always get what we want when we want it, but if we can hang in, something does get born for us.
Yeah. Well, that is, you're also hinting ahead at the next story, it seems, of Jesus getting born. So, which I think you're probably always allowed to do, but especially when the fourth Sunday of Advent happens to be on December 24th.
That's right. That's right. Of course. And there's a trajectory that we've been taking during Advent that I don't think I saw when we started. The texts are challenging, and the world is challenging right now. But where we have sort of found ourselves, when we've talked about hope and peace and joy is that they are born out of sorrow, born out of grief and suffering. And I think nowhere perhaps is that more true than when we're thinking about love. When we think about sacrifice, and we've already actually started talking about Lent in the last few weeks, but we're thinking about what wondrous love and the sacrifice that Jesus makes to love us. But love at its deepest, I think, is born out of sacrifice, out of a heaviness, and we didn't know. I think that's where we were going this Lent with hope, peace, joy, and love, kind of getting in the mud and the muck that we've talked about these last few weeks, out of which comes hope, out of which has come joy, peace, and love. That is a surprise that I don't think I saw when we started a few weeks ago.
Not really. It's fun how the moment you're in always tends to be like, oh yeah, the stories I'm familiar with are going to feel fresh because I'm reading them in a fresh moment.
Right. Yeah. So there's a heaviness, but that heaviness isn't just a bad thing. That heaviness is also something you can count on, right? When the artist says it can't be moving, it can't be moved, it can't be shaken, it's not going anywhere. And it's amazing because of that. It's amazing that with all of what Zechariah and Elizabeth have gone through and what they will go through. I mean, their son is going to be murdered. He's going to be beheaded. That love is heavy, but it's not, you can't shake it.
It's also interesting to think, like, the obvious parallels to the Abraham-Sarah story, an older couple, but just thinking of, like, them having gone without children for so long. And then what a bond that must have, even in the moments of Zechariah not being able to speak, but still like the bond they share and the love they share for, at last this thing has happened that they probably had been hoping for and given up on that dream.
Right. And I think the heaviness of that love that comes through, they did stick together. But how many couples do we know when people in the text, divorce the wife or blame the wife? And so the fact that they stayed together and still seem to have a love for each other that was not shakable is really gorgeous and beautiful.
Okay, some of my favorite Bible geek details in this, because why not? I found a giant Bible, and so I'm using this today. So what we miss in this story is Mary coming to visit Elizabeth and the Magnificat, which is magnificent. But some details in there, it's interesting. So Elizabeth is 5 months pregnant. In the 6th month, Mary comes, and Mary sticks around for 3 months and then goes home. So the idea is that Mary basically stayed until the end of Elizabeth's pregnancy, which then gives you like the literal age difference between Jesus and John. They're like 6 months apart. So when you think of these two cousins, like they're basically growing up at the exact same development. Which I just think those little details are fantastic.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, you miss those things if you just like read the headlines. You gotta actually.
You gotta dig in. You gotta pause, read it out loud, so that it sits with you.
Yeah. Well, that's my only Bible geek moment for the day. I have more in the upcoming videos. Don't worry. So, but I want to know. We are here at the end of Advent. We're going to talk about end of year, New Year stuff in the next couple of weeks. But just how does it feel lighting the 4th Advent candle, coming to the end of this? It's a small but still a weighty season in the life of the church.
It is a weighty season, and I think I'm even more grateful for the texts that we had this year than I have been in years past, because I think they have helped us, but also our congregation, to hold all of the things that are swirling around. We're very concerned about genocides that are happening around the world. I think it has opened a door for us to think even beyond what's happening in Palestine and in Gaza, but to look at Sudan, to take another look at Ukraine, to look at Colombia, and to realize that there are about 24 genocides or almost genocides happening around the world. And while that has been sobering, I think these texts have also helped us to create a space to hold it in a way that that feels, again, hopeful, like we've got some power and some agency, and that we're not left to our own frightening devices.
Yeah, otherwise it's just nihilism.
Right. So it's given us a frame.
We can say the world is falling apart, but we can at least hold on to something for the ride.
We have found that we have something to hold on to, and that this book has weight and meat that helps us get through these difficult times. And who would have thought? I think sometimes we think, sure, the scriptures are, our only rule for faith and life. But then you see babies being bombed in the land where Jesus was born, and you think, I'm not really sure this book is going to help me. But it really, I think, helped us this Advent to make sense of a senseless and broken world.
How do you feel about not preaching a baby Jesus is born sermon?
Wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Because the next time I preach, he's going to be all grown up.
Yeah, because we're switching over to Mark, and Mark doesn't really give us. That's next week. Don't skip ahead yet. But I mean, at Christmas Eve at Riverside, 4:00, 7:00, there's a kid family service, and then a lessons and carols, which are beautiful, but there's no homily, there's no sermon.
There's no homily.
The baby will be born, but you don't get to preach.
But we do get to do the nativity. Yes. All the clergy get to play characters in the nativity for the family service, which was a lot of fun. And I think I do like a welcome or something at lessons and carols.
Okay,
so I'll get to say a little something like I did for Candlelight, and talk a little bit about this heavy love. Yeah.
Well, not to say that we're going to miss that. I just thought it's interesting that we're somehow skipping the actual text of the birth, but we'll tell that story in all sorts of ways and keep telling it.
We will, with lessons and carols that will definitely get told.
Yeah. Okay, so coming up Sunday, heavy love, Zechariah, dude can't speak, name the baby John. Good stuff here. Read it. It's a great text, and then leave us your thoughts in a comment, and join us on Sunday to hear how this all comes together in a sermon, and then watch out because it's almost a new year right around the corner. We'll see you next time.